Hey guys, what's up? What's up? Happy Monday night to everybody. God bless all of you guys. Those who are just gonna catch us live and those who are just gonna catch the replay. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Blue Velvet Podcast. I did have an episode for Friday. I am still working on it, so it's gonna be coming out this week. But this is a special edition because I have a special guest with me today, and I'm so excited about it. I'm trying to make sure we're working on my YouTube. Yep. So we here on YouTube. We all set on YouTube. So for those of you that's chiming in from YouTube and those that you chiming in from Facebook, what up to all you good people? And so I'm gonna read the bio of my special guest and I'm gonna tell you guys how I met her. And then I'm gonna bring her to the screen because I'm excited about what we're gonna talk about tonight. I know a lot of people travel, I know a lot of people like to travel. I met her when I went to Japan last year, and I was so excited to see her because when I got there was nobody in the room that looked like me. And when I seen her, I was like, hey, how you doing? My name is Simone. So that's how we connected. But and I don't want to pronounce her last name wrong, so I'm gonna call her Dr. Pamela because she's not a trademark doctor. She is not an honorary doctor. She has an earned degree as Dr. Pamela. She's a Harvard trained researcher who writes and teaches on the political economy of gender and development worldwide, with a particular focus on Africa and the African diaspora. Writing on women's health, political power, wellness, and joy, she has published her award winning work in her peer reviewed journals, edited volumes, and public media outlets. Dr. Pamela grew up between Los Angeles, California, and Aba, Nigeria. I hope I said that correctly, where she moved at the age of 8. With sheer tenacity, despite many transitions, she started college at 16 at the University of California, San Diego. So she's very, very smart, right? I like smart people. She's very smart. A decade and a half later, she's an assistant professor of political science at the University of California, Irvine. She has held postdoctorate fellowships at Johns Hopkins University and the American Council for Learned Societies. She earned her PhD, it's an earned degree, an earned PhD in government with a secondary field in African and African American studies from Harvard University. And so I want to welcome to Blue Velvet Live, the one and only Dr. Pamela, and the crowd. How you doing?
Whew, I am well by the grace of God. With everything going on, I am well.
Amen. And again, thank you so much for saying yes to coming on with me. I always like to I started out when I first started this, it was just family and friends. And then I started reaching out to people, that I knew were speakers or I've heard them speak. And then I wanted to bring this back again to it's just people that I've met, people that I've had connections with that I know that has something valuable to share. And so I am so glad that you said yes. So you can come on tonight and then we can kind of talk a little bit about all things travel, being a female, being an amazing person that you are. I'm in education, you're in education too. And so all the things about that. And so how we met. So when I told you, I was like, when we were in Japan at the conference, when I first got there, I went the day before and picked up my badge early. And then that morning when I got there, I was a little tardy to the party. So I kind of sat in the back and, I could see the whole conference space.
Mhm.
I was looking for people that looked like me and I didn't see any. And so then when we had lunch and then we went back upstairs for, the second half of the session, I seen you at the table looking for your badge. I was like, how you doing? I was thinking, oh, that is another black woman. Let me say hello. Just black person, period. Let me say hello. And then we said hello, and you were so nice and kind. You said you're looking for your badge. And then you came to my session. I came to your session. We exchanged numbers. And then we hung out like the day before I was leaving. And so I was always so thankful and appreciative that. What made you come to Japan to speak at their conference?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to your podcast. You are doing the Lord's work in your own way. So I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be able to just catch up with you, even post the Japan trip. So this is wonderful. So what made me come to the conference? Honestly, it was more so because I wanted to visit Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking for an opportunity that was aligned with my work, that was aligned with professionally, because I am in a season of my life where I have been intentional about mapping on my professional pursuits onto my personal desires.
Oh, I like it.
To the other way around.
Yeah.
So the honest to God truth is that I've been looking for an opportunity to go to Japan for years. And as God would have it, that summer, I was attending another conference where I was actually a chair in Korea. And so it was International Political Science Association. They were having their conference in Korea that year. And I remember thinking, ooh, I can't come this far and just go to Korea because I've always wanted to go to Japan. And so as I was looking, I found the conference that we attended on International Education Innovation.
Mhm.
And it was very much aligned with new work that I was doing at my university around my research area, thinking about innovation and the intersection of education, research, and practice. And I thought, okay, this would be a great venue for presenting my work in progress and also just getting that practice of speaking to a diverse audience in a different setting that I haven't been to before. So that was the main impetus for going.
Wow. Yeah. And I think for me too, it was more, let me test a totally different audience than what I am used to. And it was definitely a very diverse audience that I'd never spoken to. And I met a lot of cool people. Another one of the ladies, I keep up with her on WhatsApp too. We kind of talked maybe a couple weeks ago. She's in her doctoral program now. And she was telling me her work about that. So we went to each other's program, and you do a lot of stuff on gender equality. And so after that, we exchanged numbers. We went out to eat with the group that night, and then we got together. I guess that Friday night we met up down. I guess it was downtown Japan, and just talked. And I was asking you, like, about your travels. Your travel as a single person. That was my first time going international, and that was my first. It was me traveling by myself. I was like, I didn't even tell my mom. I just thought I was going to DC, which I did go to DC. I went to DC to catch a flight.
Mercy.
Yeah, but I never.
Okay, it's really half truths. Okay.
Yeah, because for one thing, she worries a lot, and I just
she wasn't ready to hear the full truth, so you gave her the dose she could handle. I get you.
But then when I came back, I told her like, "Oh well, I've been to Japan." She's like, "No, you did," and I said, "Yeah, I did." She's like, "No, you did." I said, "Yeah, I did." So that's how that happened. But when I met you, we talked, and I was asking you about like your traveling. How many countries have you been to so far?
As of today, to be honest, I don't have the exact number. I just know it's in the high 70s. So maybe around 76, 75 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Which sounds like a flex. I don't know the exact number. The reason why I don't know the exact number, I do calculate time to time, but I try to be mindful about not being so focused on the number, because I want to make sure I'm traveling meaningfully and purposefully and not focused on trying to hit a mark of like, oh, I've hit this many countries. So that's the reason why I don't always keep track of the number, because I don't want that to motivate me. I want to make sure the motivation remains the actual motivation, and then the surprise of having so many countries I visited to being like an extra cherry on top. So that's the reason I don't know the exact number as of right now. I'm gonna sit down in a few weeks and actually calculate, but I know it's like in the high 70s, close to 80 now.
Yeah, I think what we made, it was, I think you said it was like 6, 7. I was like, wow. And we kind of talked about like family, and like that wasn't something that you saw a lot in your family, but that was something that you had a desire to do, and you was like, hey, I'm gonna just do this thing. And I was like, yeah, like I'm just gonna do the things I want to do, and I don't want to be held back because of what I haven't seen done in my own family.
Amen.
And you're a great example of that. And I remember you told me, it's like when you travel like you live there. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm definitely the most well-traveled person in my family, or probably even my family tree, to be honest, even beyond all the generations, perhaps.
Yep.
Yeah, and the whole thing around, just not living your life based on other people's expectations, or the limitations of their expectations as well. Building the life that you desire has been a big thing for me, and how it's really just taken me years. And so, what was the second question around that?
You said when you travel, you live like
Yes,
live like you live there.
yes. So honestly, it really stems from like my main objective or motivation for traveling. I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to see the world. That was the biggest motivation. And I remember when I got to college, I was part of a study abroad program, and I did a homestay with a family in France while I was part of an international exchange program in the country as well, one of the universities there. And I remember there was the option of doing a program that was through a homestay versus perhaps staying in the university dorms or in some other kind of way. And I remember thinking I want to do a homestay because I wanted to have the experience as though I was living there. So that's the mentality I already had as a teenager, going to college and wanting to study abroad. Because the idea for me was that I wanted to experience life in different parts of the world, as opposed to just hitting different places and being like, oh, I've been to so and so. That was never my motivation. I already wanted to see the world before social media was a thing, before Instagram was a thing, before Instagram even existed. And so because I already had that inner desire, it wasn't based on external pressure. The objective was very clear. And like you said, it's difficult to do something when you haven't seen anybody doing it. And so if you have something that's driving you to do it, that means you got to chart your own path. That means it's actually coming from within. It's not coming from any expectation from the outside. I'm not trying to please anybody. So I had to make sure I was traveling in a way that was actually congruent to who I am. And I'm the kind of person that, even as a researcher, a lot of the work that I do is rooted in what we call ethnography. So ethnography in the sense of participant observation, where you're in different cultures, you're understanding how people make meaning in that culture, how they understand power, gender, identity, other topics, and making sure you're really immersed, deeply immersed in that culture in order to understand it very well. And so that was always my motivation. Even with the program I did in France, I was there to study and understand French and get more fluent, but I was also learning French politics, economics, social realities, being in a family really just accelerates your learning so much more when you're really deeply rooted in that culture. And so, of course, I have language to articulate it now that I'm older and more and much wiser. But back then, it wasn't fully articulated. I just knew within that I just wanted to experience life in different places, see the world from different points of view. How else would I do that if I wasn't really living in different places? I hope that makes sense.
That makes sense. Because I remember, I think I told you that day, I was like, I went to the train station, but the guy couldn't understand me. I couldn't understand what he was saying. And I was like, well, I'm just not going to get in the train because I don't want to get lost. And then when I met up with you, when we went back on the train. I was like, I wanted to do it early. And I really got I got more of an appreciation for students who English is a second language, because when I was like struggling, like I feel like I'm a very proficient woman and can read and comprehend, but when you're in another country, all of that goes out the window, because it's like you relying on pictures and translations and all the things. And so it just gave me a deep appreciation. But I ended up still doing what I want to do, which was going to see some of the sites. And we was at the castles, and then we went on the train, and then we went to the grocery store. And that's what you told me. Like, I live like Logan. I think you told me you was going to church or the day before or something like that. And I was like, I want to do that. Because a lot of times you go places, you just go to the touristy places, but that doesn't really give you a real feel of kind of like what people are doing, because you're usually around other people who are tourists too. And so I love that idea so much. So, so that was my first time going out of the country. So for those that's watching now and they're like, they're new to or novice to traveling by themselves, in different countries, what advice could you give somebody to say, hey girl, hey guy, you should just do it?
Girl, the first advice is start. Straight up, start the process. Don't start thinking about all the details, getting overwhelmed. Just start with something. Even if the starting with something is Googling, start with that. Google is somewhere to go. If you have any inkling of somewhere you're leaning towards for whatever reason, literally the main thing is start. I think many times people can get in their head around trying to plan, research, share different perspectives, all this other blah, blah, blah. No, just start. Just start. Because with action, you get momentum. And from there, you're building your confidence by actually doing the thing. You don't get confidence from hearing about the thing, getting perspectives about the thing, spending 1,001 years doing research. No. Start the thing. Look into flights. Think about where you're trying to go. Think about the why. Start with the why, definitely. Think about why do you want to travel to begin with? What is the driving force within you? I mean, this is an opinion, but the whole impetus of trying to look like you're keeping up with the Joneses or trying to flex on people, it's a ridiculous motivator, in my opinion. It's not enough to sustain you when it comes to the ups and downs of travel, because as you know, like travel is so beautiful, so eye-opening, but it also will challenge you. There are parts that are not simple. And that's just life with growth. As you're growing, you're hitting things that are shaping you. And so if you're doing it for external validation, it's not sufficient to push you through the downs of travel. And so starting with the why, what is actually motivating you to travel to begin with? And literally just start Googling something, looking into flights, looking into locations, thinking about your budget, thinking about, okay, do I need a visa or not? Is my passport up to date? And even if you can't think through all those details, just being like, okay, literally go to Google, go to AI and ask it, if I want to go on so and so trip, this is my background as somebody maybe who hasn't been before. Maybe I have been somewhere before, but I haven't been to, say, a different continent before. What are the key things I should keep in mind? Even something as simple like that is a starting point. So that's what I say. Don't start asking your mama, your friends, no, they can't tell you, they can't help you. Unless they have. But like ethos is, if somebody hasn't done what you're trying to do, or they're not who you're trying to be, their advice, take it with a grain of salt. Don't even seek it half the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I that's one thing I took away from you that day when we came down that castle. I was like, yeah, that stuff that you said to me, it really did stick with me. Like, so I'm very thankful. Now I know, like, you'll do like Airbnbs, you go to the grocery store. So what are some things you do once you get into a country that is, I would be considered native to people who live there?
So you mean the first few things I do once I land, like that first day? Is that what you mean?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay, let me take a step back. So even before I land, I try to plan out what is the theme of a particular trip, because depending on the theme, that tends to shape what kinds of things I do and how I plan accordingly once I get there.
Yeah.
And so what I mean by that, so for instance, the trip that we were on together in Osaka, for that one, I was part of this conference, presenting at this conference. So there was a professional tilt to it, but I also knew that I wanted to also see some of the touristy things, but also do my regular daily life things as well. And thinking about how much time do I have in that place, and then planning the time accordingly. And so I think about those things beforehand, the theme, because some places I go to, it might not be for a work-related thing. It might be for vacation. And even if it is for vacation, am I doing like adventures, going hiking, waterfalls, or am I just like lounging and going to the spa? Like, what is the actual theme? So starting beforehand to decide what the theme is influences the first few things I do when I land. So let me say that.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say like they have a theme in mind. Like, what is the, what is the purpose of this trip? How am I going to handle that? So that's a really good thing. Thank you.
It helps to reduce overwhelm, because when you're visiting somewhere, you've invested money, time in order to go somewhere. So sometimes you can feel a level of pressure to just like do all the things, see all the things, top 10, this and that, look at all the blogs. And then you just feel so overwhelmed and so exhausted, which is why you often hear people say things like, oh, I need a vacation from the vacation. It's because of that, right? But if you plan beforehand, okay, why am I taking this vacation? Or why am I taking this trip? What is the purpose of it? It helps you know what to say yes and what to say no to. So it just kind of helps with balancing things out. And so for me, the first few things I do once I do land, well, one, figuring out like where it is I'm staying, and I've already determined that beforehand, thinking about the transport mode as well. So for Japan, I could easily use Uber or trains, but some places don't have that. They might not have a well-developed train system, and it might not even have Uber as an app, but figuring out, okay, what is the major mode of transportation? How do I get from point A to point B? And then thinking about, okay, where can I find food? I usually plan food a little bit beforehand, only because I'm very intentional about how I eat. And part of the reason is because I travel quite a lot, and it's easy to kind of get very unhealthy when you're on the road so much. So you're not at home, you're not cooking, you're doing your own food, your own, routines. And because you're also on the road, you are exposed to a lot more people and places, so you're more susceptible to getting sick. And so because of the germs, change of environment, less sleep. So I'm very, very militant about how I eat. And so what I mean by that is that even as I'm traveling, I'm packing little things like chia seeds, oatmeal, little stuff like that, for in case I get to somewhere, it's too late, nothing is open, I can't find no food, at least I can use the hot water and make some chia seeds and oatmeal and still get my nutrients. So little things like that, even nuts, packing the things that I know will at least fuel me and give me some nutrients, are things I'm very intentional about. So that's how I go about it.
Oh, I like that. That's good. That's good. Now we talked about this a little bit before we came live, but part of your work is about Africa and the Africa diaspora.
Yes.
Am I saying that word right? Diaspora.
Diaspora. But perhaps with an accent, it could be pronounced differently.
Blame it on my accent.
I'm screaming.
Me too. So what are some more, I won't say diverse, but what are other countries that most people probably don't think of that have Black people in it?
Good question. I'm glad you even said the little tidbit about I wouldn't say diverse because right, the word diversity means a diversity of people. You can think about diversity through ethnic and racial lenses, but also through other lenses like class lens, language lens, right? And so, yes, if somebody is trying to prioritize going to places that are either exclusively Black or predominantly Black, right? A good starting point could be somewhere that's close by, like say like Caribbean, for instance. Many Caribbean countries, and even some countries in Latin America as well that are also have a large Black population that people might not even realize. So one of the places that has like the largest African diaspora outside of Africa, of course, is Brazil. So the Brazilian population is over 50% Black. Now there is a bit of how do I put it, debate over the exact stats on that because of how people identify when it comes to being mixed race, being Black, different ways. It's a bit political in a sense, but generally there are a lot more Black people in Brazil than there are in the US, for instance, right? So even thinking about diversity from that lens, like, oh, if I were to go somewhere where Portuguese is being spoken, it's not my language, but somebody might even ask me for directions because I look like I fit in, right? That familiarity and figuring things out just by virtue of feeling like you're amongst your people is really important. So Brazil, Colombia has a large Afro-Colombian population as well. You can think of the DR, Dominican Republic, Haiti, and then of course the actual Black countries like Haiti or Jamaica, St. Martin, many of the Caribbean countries. And so there's just so many that people don't really think about. One place I do want to mention, because I think this is an area of the world that is under acknowledged, understudied as well, is the Pacific. So the Pacific Islands, what they call the Melanesian Islands. There's actually a part of the world known as Melanesia. A lot of people don't know about this.
Yeah, I did know.
Yeah, a lot of people. So Melanesia is part of the Pacific. So many of the Pacific Islands, we think about Polynesians as you come from Samoa, for instance, or Tonga. Melanesians are people coming from places like Fiji, for instance. So Fiji, Islands, Papua New Guinea, that part of the world is what they call Melanesia. And the reason it's called Melanesia is literally because of melanin, because they're Black.
Wow. I didn't know that. Wow. So you've been to quite a few places. A lot of places. What would probably be your top three if you had to pick like your top three places or just top three memorable places that you've been? What would you say they were? And then what's the one thing that made it memorable or stood out to you or that you just enjoyed?
Oh, okay. Okay, I have to pause a bit on this question.
Okay.
I'm going to request permission to reformat the question a little bit.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to reformat is because I often do get this question of like my top or my favorite place, and I don't have a favorite. And the reason I don't have a favorite is because each place, each time, each purpose is quite different. And who you're with, whether it's solo, with family, with friends, with colleagues, the timing of it, the place, the purpose, all those things are different variables that shape a trip. So it's hard to say that's about a particular place. Now, that being said, I do have a particular trip that I would consider one of my most transformative to date. So my most transformative trip is a trip I took in, let me see, in 2023. And it was a trip I took across different parts of West Africa specifically. And at that point in my life, I had been to different parts of Africa. I had traveled through North Africa, Southern Africa, East Africa, not Central yet. I was going to travel Central Africa the year after, but and I had been to many parts, but I had never really traveled through West Africa specifically. The only country I had been to in West Africa was Nigeria, which is my country of heritage and where I grew up as well. But I had never really ventured outside of Nigeria to other parts of West Africa. And I always wanted to do it, but the opportunity hadn't aligned yet. And that year it did. I was working as a postdoctoral fellow with a nonprofit organization, and the position was predominantly remote. We had some in-person parts, but most parts were remote. And at the time, I was in Nigeria because it was election season. And as a political scientist, I wanted to be on the ground to capture and document some of what was going on. And so at the time, I was thinking, okay, I have a pocket of time, a month and a half, 2 months, where I didn't have to be in Nigeria proper, but I wasn't required to be back in the US yet for my next thing that I was responsible for. And so I decided to travel from Nigeria to Benin, and then from Benin to Togo, and then from Togo to Ghana, and then from Ghana to Senegal. Now, the reason why this trip was very transformative for me, a couple of first, I'll mention the external part of it. And then the second thing I'll mention is the internal part, which is the bigger part of it. Yeah. So the external, this particular trip was pretty wild. And what I mean by wild is that I am already somebody that operates in a very different way. You already could tell from when you met me. I operate at the beat of my own drum. Like I know I'm living a very, very different life. And that is, I know I didn't want to be the average person. So I'm very, very different. And so with that trip, there are a number of things I did, again, externally that are quite wild. One of them being, one, I was traveling through all these countries solo, right? I'm a young Black woman doing all this stuff by myself, solo. So that's strike one. Now, strike two, yes, it's solo, but it's not like I'm traveling solo through, say, like North America or Europe. I'm traveling solo through West Africa, which is not the easiest place to travel through on your own. When we think about like tourist infrastructure, is not the most developed in the region. It is in some places like Ghana and Senegal, but even that's more recent, especially with the year of return that was popular in Ghana some years ago, where a lot of African-American celebrities were going to Ghana to kind of commemorate the history of slavery. And so Ghana became more of a tourist hub, and they kind of built up that infrastructure. But besides Ghana and to some extent Senegal, the infrastructure around tourism in places like Togo, Benin, and especially Nigeria is not particularly developed. So I just want to give that context around why this is like the kind of trip that somebody who is just starting to travel might not want to do. It's more so for a traveler, right? And so it was really wild for me. So that's strike two. So traveling solo, doing it in West Africa, and then I went predominantly by road, which is also a big thing. So I literally took a bus from Nigeria to Benin, a bus from Benin to Togo, a bus from Togo to Ghana. I flew from Ghana to Senegal only because time constraint, because it would have taken much longer to get to Senegal. I had to pass through Cote d'Ivoire and keep going. But so it was predominantly by road, which is even wilder because people I know, people in my own social circles, even those who live in Nigeria, do not do such a thing. Right. It was a lot of asking around, researching to figure out how do I make this thing happen, because I really wanted to go by road. Because Benin borders with Nigeria, and then after Benin, it borders with Togo. After Togo is Ghana. So I was like, why would I be flying by road? And then again, when it comes to travel, specifically on the African continent, it's not so easy to travel by airfare sometimes. The reason being the routes are not the most efficient. And some of it's a level of like colonial history, in the sense that sometimes to go from one country to another country, you would literally leave the continent and come back. So you might have a flight from, say, Nigeria, you're trying to get to maybe Cabo Verde, and then you go to Portugal just to go to Cabo Verde, even though you're in the same continent. And it makes no sense, but there's a whole political economy around flying on the continent that's it's not the best. I say all that to say I wanted to go by road for that reason, but also because I wanted to experience what it's like to go by road in West Africa. And I've done it in other places, but it's a different experience to travel across borders by road versus traveling across border by flight, or even by ferry or by water. They're just different experiences. So I wanted to have that experience. And then like that wasn't wild enough. I had so much luggage on me because I'm a woman. So I had all my stuff. I had like 2 big suitcases and 1 small one because most. So that trip was just it was me operating at like not the heights of me being different, but it was like I was taking it up a notch even further, because I'm already different, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just be even more unique and
right.
This right here is one's comfort zone. This is outside of the comfort zone, right? This is straight wilding right here, right? She's out of the screen. She just that was happening with me externally. Now internally, and this is why it was one of my most transformative trips, is that up until that point, I think at that point, maybe I had traveled to about 40-ish or almost 50 countries at that point. And so it's not like I wasn't well-traveled. I already was well-traveled across different continents for different purposes over the years since I was 18, essentially. And in most of that travel, I traveled with a lot of trepidation and a level of like fear and anxiety. I was very, very guarded for the most part, and understandably so, right? I'm a woman trying to travel and see the world. The world is not particularly kind, so you got to be on guard. And that was the first trip where I was very intentional about telling God, I don't want to travel this way anymore. I want to trust that you will lead me to kindness and good people. That if
Yeah.
anyone doesn't have my best interest in mind, you will block them, destroy them, or do whatever you got to do, but they won't come near me. And
Yep.
so it was a different level of faith for me with that particular trip. There was an internal shift that had happened where I wasn't traveling with as much caginess and anxiety as I did in the past. And again, as somebody who has traveled many times, it was still something that was lingering, understandably so. But it was like a different level of trust I leaned into in that trip. And it just opened up a plethora of experiences that I would not have had if I was so guarded and cagey. So I was so grateful for that. So that's why it was my most transformative trip to date.
I love that. And you know, when we were talking, I kind of shared a little bit, and I told you like a lot of stuff, you know, secondhand fear is real. Like a lot of the stuff that I took on, it
Mhm.
wasn't even my stuff, but it's the stuff that other people was afraid to do that put on me and made me kind of a little hesitant. I was like, you know, and that's when I was like, when I landed in, I don't know if I told you, but when I landed in, I think I landed in I forgot why I landed before I got into Osaka. And I was like, why was I ever afraid to like travel like international by myself again? Like, what the heck? Like, nothing is happening. And everybody that I met was very nice, was very kind, was very helpful, and it was like, don't allow what other people. So I
Yeah.
felt that when I went to Japan, what you just said is like, oh
Mm.
yeah, I'm not gonna allow this to like stop me anymore. And we kind of talked a little bit about that, but yeah, that is really, really good because it really does open you up to say, I can go whatever I can go and travel, especially if you are, you know, you asking God to protect you and make sure you align me up with where I'm supposed to go, the place I'm supposed to meet. If I have a piece about, okay, this is where I'm supposed to go, then I'm gonna go. And then it just so happened that me and you connected, right? Even though we connected at the conference, we didn't have to connect outside of the conference on our own and still stay connected, but it was just something that was aligned. I was looking for to meet people that I had never met before, nice and kind people, and that's what she was open to. And then he brings us together, people from all walks of life, and you're like, wow, this is so cool. So I am I am more than happy and more than blessed that you said yes tonight for coming. Now I know we talked a little bit about the travel part. If you just can just 1-2 minutes, what do you do when it comes? What is the work that you do around gender equality?
So this was mentioned at the beginning a little bit of the session. That so I work as a professor of political science at the University of California, Irvine currently, and I've been doing research around women's empowerment in a variety of ways. So thinking about women's political empowerment, economic empowerment, and social empowerment.
Mhm.
Most of my research has been situated in the African context, but also in the Americas as well. I have some research I've done in Nigeria, in Rwanda, in Colombia, in the US as well,
Mhm.
thinking about the different ways in which women entered the political sphere and changed the political sphere as well, and
Mhm.
thinking about the different economic and social barriers, and also the economic and social facilitators of women's political power.
Mhm.
And so that's been the bulk of the work I've done in a variety of ways, thinking about women's engagement in elected office, engagement in protests, engagement in different kinds of political activity, even beyond what is seen, and really just bringing light to what is unseen. Like how do women engender power for themselves, even when they are sidelined from political institutions? So that has been some of the work I've done in the past. So for instance, in Colombia, I had the opportunity to help a friend who was also a doctoral student when I was getting my PhD. And
Mhm.
she was doing work around women's resistance to state-sponsored violence in
Mhm.
Colombia and Brazil and other parts of Latin America that had a large Black population.
Mhm.
And so when I was visiting her in Colombia, we essentially had facilitated a series of workshops around Black women's wellness and health,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
how by investing in our own health and wellness, that in itself is a political act. That's a radical act in a world that is very much anti-Black, anti-women. By
Yeah.
you investing and prioritizing your own wellness and
Mhm.
moving beyond just survival and thinking about how we can thrive even in these systems that are trying to kill us, that in itself is a political act. And so in that work, I essentially was helping to facilitate a series of workshops around natural ways of caring for oneself, natural beauty around hair. How do you even take care of natural hair in a variety of ways? How do we get Black women to love their hair as it is, while also embracing the diversity of how we can take care of our hair and kind of spelling myths around Black hair and Black beauty. So that was a lot of the work I did in Colombia, and I've done it in a variety of ways in other places too. So that's like a snapshot of my work.
I love that so much because you don't ever, unless someone brings it to your attention. Like I never thought health and wellness for us is an act of political, especially being that, especially here in the U.S. I won't say everything, but a lot of things are not healthy, but it's consumed and pushed on you a lot. So to push back on that, say no, I don't want to do that. That's really cool. Do you think are you ever interested in running for like a political or governmental position ever?
They say never. I don't have an interest as of yet. I'm trying to live a long and purposeful life. I don't want to die before my time or myself before my time.
Yeah.
But if that's what God is calling me to do, then that's what I will do. But for now, I don't have any interest whatsoever. I do care about impact, and I think impact can happen in a variety of ways. It can happen through running for political office, but it can also happen outside of these formalized political institutions. And that's the nature of the work I've been doing thus far, and I'm very proud of it. So for now, no.
Okay, cool. And then one last question. Do you ever, when you travel, I know you do a lot of solo travel, do you ever put together travel trips where you can bring other people who are interested in studying what you're doing or interested in showing people how you go about going to different countries? Have you ever done that or thought about that?
I have thought about it. I have not done it in an official way. I've done it with friends where I'm the one kind of curating the trip, and they're interested for a variety of reasons, and I'm kind of introducing them to how I travel. So I'll give an example. When I was turning 30, I organized a girls' trip to Bali in Indonesia. And for that trip, we had a series of things we were doing. But one of the things we did, we went to a cooking class to learn Balinese cuisine, how to make Balinese cuisine. And I remember after the cooking class, my friends, they were just so grateful. They were like, I would have never thought of booking a cooking class while traveling. Thank you for this idea. So even little things like that, it's not so much like formally saying, this is how I do things, follow it, but more so as a person who's usually the most traveled in most social groups I'm in, is more just saying, hey, it's how I do things. Would you like to join? And kind of opening up the invitation. People join and they have a different experience. It opens their eyes in a different way. So that's how I've done it so far, but not in a formalized, providing like a retreat package type of way.
Spending that time that I spent with you today, I was like, I would love to travel with her. So if you ever decide to open it up and like share your experience or open it up to what people, I would love to do. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person that's like, oh yeah, I would love to do it. It's because especially when you're as not as travel and you want to go other places, being with somebody else who is, it makes it a level of comfort. And then because you are experiencing certain things, it's like, wow, now I don't have to think of it on my first experience, but now I know how to do it because now I'm with somebody else too who's also doing it. So I would say consider that, if that's something that God wants you to consider that, because I think there'll be a lot more people interested in saying, yeah, I definitely want to go and, experience all that, especially because you've been to a plethora of ways. I know I said that was my last question. Is there any places you've been to multiple times or places that you would love to go back to visit again?
Oh, yeah. A lot of places I've been to, I actually have been multiple times. So this is a good example of me not being fixated on the number. If I was more fixated on the number, I wouldn't be repeating places, right? And then I would end up, because I'm trying to focus on the number of places I've been to, but I'm more so focused on the purpose of going to a place, the quality of the travel. So some places I've been to multiple times, one of them Nigeria, just for obvious reasons. I'm Nigerian. A lot of my research is based there. I've been to Rwanda a number of times. I used to do research there for a while. South Africa, and even Colombia. I've been to Colombia twice at this point. Mexico a number of times, France a number of times. Yeah, some places are repeat offenders. It depends on what's taking me there. Like I'm going to Greece this summer, and I've been to Greece before. So it's really about, what is the purpose of me going somewhere and really learning more about a place? Because even when I repeat a place, again, kind of going back to what I was saying about the different variables around travel, it's the place, it's the people, it's the timing, it's the purpose. A lot of things are shifting. So you get to experience that place in a different way. And not only those external things are shifting, you yourself are shifting, right? And so going somewhere, I remember one time I had the opportunity to go to France for work. This is when I was doing my postdoc and I was working as a research coordinator at a nonprofit. And we had a conference we were all supposed to attend together as staff in France. And as God would have it, the exact city, it's called Grenoble, where they were having the conference was the same city where I had studied abroad 10 years prior.
Wow.
And so it was the wildest, most divine thing because Grenoble is not a prominent city in France. We go to Paris or Bordeaux or Lyon, one of the other major cities, but not Grenoble per se. Many people don't actually know if you're not French. And so I was thinking, wow, how wild it is that God is bringing me back to this exact same place 10 years later. And so I've had a number of those kinds of experiences where I'm coming back to somewhere for a particular purpose in a particular way. And because I'm living a life where I am being well-traveled and I've traveled quite a lot, I am very intentional. The word intentional keeps coming up. I'm very intentional about really reflecting on trips as well and not just passing through places so quickly, but making sure the places are passing through me. Who is the person I'm becoming in the process of experiencing life in different places? That's very, very big for me. So yeah, even though I repeat some places, there's a reason why I'm repeating some places.
I love that. Now, what are the other languages that you speak besides English?
So besides English, my maternal tongue is Igbo. So that's the language that's predominant in the southeastern part of Nigeria. I also speak French. I started learning French when I was 8, 9 years old. And the reason why a lot of people are usually surprised by this, the reason why I know French quite well and why I started so early is because when I was 8 years old, I moved to Nigeria. And I lived in Nigeria for about 7 years before moving back to the US. And the thing about Nigeria is that many of the schools in Nigeria, French is taught. And the reason why it's taught is because even though Nigeria is an English-speaking country and we have our own variety of indigenous languages, the countries that surround Nigeria are all French-speaking countries. So Cameroon, Benin, Niger, all those countries are all French-speaking. And because they're French-speaking, to help with commerce and trade, required language in many of the schools, not all, but many of the schools. So that's how I was exposed to French to begin with. And then I moved back to the US and continued it in college because I just loved it. And then I did a study abroad program. So that's how French kind of entered the mix. Spanish, I also speak Spanish. I learned that later in life. Fourth language, I learned that when I was in college because it felt like it would be useful because I'm in the US. Also, I went to college in California. I'm from California. It's a very useful language in this part of the world. And then with my travels in South America and just other parts of Latin America, it has been useful in that way to just keep on learning and getting better at it. So those are the 4. Even though I've studied more languages than that, but those are the 4 I actually know and I can actually use in a professional way.
Wow, that is so cool. I appreciate you. I was learning something. I'm like, this why she's kind, she's nice, and she's very smart. I can learn a lot from her. Yes. Thank you for coming on tonight. And I know those who are, I didn't even click on the comments, so I have to go back on the comments. But guys, listen, let me put her name up here so you can see her because I was all into this conversation. But tell me how to pronounce your last name correctly.
Yes. So my last name is Nwakanma.
Nwakanma.
Yes. And if you're trying to remember how to say it, I often say this to my students. Think of Wakanda in Black Panther and they place the D with an M.
Wakama.
There you go.
Oh, that's so hey, that's so cool. I love that. Now, are you on social media?
I am. I'm not on there in the sense of like being on there all the time because I'm busy. I'm busy living a full life offline.
That's right.
However, I do post things about my work here and there, just to make sure I'm building an audience slowly but surely, so that when my books come out, people know about it and that kind of thing. So I am on social media. I'm just not always on there, but I do post things here and there, mostly on LinkedIn for the most part.
Okay. So guys, listen, whenever you tune in, some of you may be live tonight. Thank you for tuning in. For those just going to catch the replay, please go follow Dr. Pamela. She's a real doctor. You've heard her. She's very articulate. You're going to learn a lot of things. So go follow her on LinkedIn for the professional side. She's well traveled and well versed. And so, again, I want to say thank you for coming on tonight. It has definitely been a pleasure for us to just talk and to
Mhm.
catch up again. So, bless you, bless you, bless you. If there was any last parting words you want to say to somebody that was listening about anything, is there anything you would like to share?
Ooh. Last parting words. This sounds so, it's the end.
Well, for tonight, for this episode,
I
because
know for this episode, like, oh my God, last
right.
words. Um, yeah, yeah, I do have some last parting words around just self-belief,
Mhm,
radical belief.
mhm,
And my sense of self, my belief comes from my faith. And I've alluded to it quite a bit in this
mhm,
episode, in the sense of like my belief in God and
mhm,
my creator who
mhm.
created me and how I was created, and just really staying true to that, honoring who I am. And so my last words to people is just like really dig deep, find out who you are, what you are meant to do in this world, and follow your own beat. Don't, I mean, it's very, the world is as it is, the world is very noisy. And so
Mhm.
it takes intentionality to really get quiet and figure out who am I outside of how the world has shaped me. And so for me, that has been really, really getting deep into my faith. So really figure out for yourself, like, what do you actually believe in for real? That's my parting words. Where do you believe in?
Yeah,
That will determine your life.
that is so good. And I feel like I'm in a season right now where I'm really having to do that, dig deep to figure out who is Simone, what does she want to do, what is she really called to do, and just go do that thing. So thank you. Like I always say, whenever people come on, it's always a confirmation. I'm the first recipient of it because I'm just like, you know what, this is so good. I'm definitely going to watch this several times. But that right there, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking your time. It's at what this 11, 9, 8 o'clock there now. So you're in California, so the Pacific Standard Time. So for
Sun is
those,
setting.
what you say, it's 7.
No, the sun is setting. So it's
Oh,
when
the sun, yeah, the sun is setting over there, and the sun has set here, like set. And so thank you again for coming on. You're always welcome back, and it's been a pleasure to catch back up. And so, we'll stay connected on WhatsApp and continue to do great things. Continue to just be all that God has called you to be. Go out and do the things. Go and inspire people. You inspire people from afar. Like I was definitely inspired. Like thousands of miles away from where I was, that God will allow us to meet and connect with each other. So I am very thankful. I'm very grateful. So have a great night. Thank you to all of you guys that are watching, that'll catch the replay. Put in your comments. Go follow Pamela. Let her know how this blessed you. And we will see you guys on another episode of Blue Velvet. Peace.